Hello, my pack, my tribe. Welcome to Howling After Dark. So, got some good stuff tonight. Well, just like every night. There, maybe you can hear me better now. So, I found my old tablet, so I decided to try doing an episode tonight on that. So far, so good, I think. And as for what we're going to be talking about, it is kind of a delicate subject. Um, and that is how to deal with certain situations that come up as a paranormal investigator. Um, if you've been listening to me since the beginning, you've probably heard my episode on being really careful about what we do in the paranormal. Um, but to kind of reiterate that for my newer listeners, basically what I was saying is that we have to be super careful about anything that we do in the paranormal because we've we're already fighting an uphill battle most of the time because people don't want to believe. They don't want to consider that there are things that they can't see or touch. There are people out there whose if it doesn't fit into their tiny little box, they just simply can't accept it. And so it's in part about them. Like, how do you deal with that? Well, here's the short answer: be polite, but speak your mind. I'll give you an example. So this was probably, I guess, about 4 or 5 years ago. We were doing an investigation with another group, and I actually absolutely love them. I'm not going to name them uh, because I'm not trying to make anybody feel, bad or embarrassed or anything like that. However, they have a demonologist on their team, and my, I guess you could say, paranormal point of view is not that of most people, but definitely very different than demonologists. See, because and there's always exception to the rule. Not every demonologist is the same, but as a rule, demonologists believe that any spirit you come across in a haunting is in fact a demon trying to trick you. I do not share that point of view. And so when I encountered this individual, I was very polite. but I was very firm. That is not what I believe. That is not how I'm going to approach this. Um, because I'm not going to treat every spirit here like they're a demon because it would alienate the spirits that we already have a good relationship with. And I said it pretty much like that. And it wasn't to take anything away from the guy's work that I'm sure he's achieved or anything. Uh, it was just we believe different things, but this is my spot. We're hosting here, so as long as you're here, we are not doing that. Another situation along the same lines, we had a, it might have been before or but I think it was after. Uh, After that, probably about a year or so, we had another investigation that we were hosting, and it was our regular site. It was a place we go to or did go to at that time all the time. And once again, we were hosting, and somebody asked, and I give them kudos for asking. They asked if they could bring in a Ouija board, and I very firmly, but very politely put my foot down, and I explained why. I do not approve of Ouija boards in any of my sites, and never will. And it's nothing against the people that use them. Okay? I want to make this very clear. The reason I oppose to these things is simply because it is an open doorway and anything can come through it. And people have argued with me before and said, well, same thing can be said of a spirit box. Yeah, except for a spirit box you can turn off. Once you open that portal that exists within a Ouija board, that's what they were designed for. They are not toys, by the way. I don't I don't care if Parker Brothers or whoever puts their name on it and sells it in the toy store. It is not a fucking toy. So if you're a parent, don't let your fucking kids have this thing. Because literally anything can come through it. I'm not saying that it's going to be definitely bad or definitely good or either way. What I'm saying is once that doorway's open, you cannot close it unless you go to extreme methods to deal with that thing. I recently talked to my buddy Josh Elmer, who, by the way, it, I highly recommend these videos on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel called TIPA, T-I-P-A TV. Check them out. They're awesome. Anyways, um, he was on one of his episodes. They were at a cemetery somewhere, and they were doing a Randonautica adventure, I believe. And while they were looking around for whatever it was they were supposed to find, they see this Ouija board in a bush, and they decide to take it home. Now, Josh is a great guy, but I believe we do differ a little bit on our stance about Ouija boards. But he told me that on a follow-up they did, this thing like flew in the air. Like almost as if something invisible snatched it away from them. And he's like, well, we don't have to worry about that thing anymore. I'm like, yeah. but you had to worry about it in the first place. Is kind of what I was thinking. But uh, and it's okay if you differ opinions with somebody. Okay, and I don't believe I really have to say that, but there you go. But you can have different opinions as long as you're both polite about it. You know, at least you be polite about it. Another situation, um, and this actually goes back to my first episode ever of Howling After Dark, which, by the way, was on Josh Elmer's from Tippet TV. It was on his network called Utah Para Radio, way back in the day. But I tore into Jonathan Zappis and Ryan Buell. Now, Jonathan Zappis was the head, I guess, investigator of on the show Haunted Collector, which many of you may remember. And Ryan Buell was the lead investigator on a show called Paranormal State, uh, which was housed out of Penn State. Now, here's the thing. I would not have cared either way about either of these gentlemen until I heard there were briefly before I got on Utah Para Radio, there was another network I was supposed to get on, and the guy that owns that network also does his own show, and it's a call-in show. And this lady called in and explained that she had what she believed to be an incubus or succubus in her home. And she had contacted all sorts of paranormal groups, and every single one of them let her down. Like one group, prior to the investigation, went to the bar down the street. That kind of thing. And then somehow, finally, she got a hold of Ryan Buell, who spent all of 15 minutes there, walked out, looked her dead in her face, and told her that she was crazy. And then a short time after that, she had gotten a hold of Jonathan Zappis, and I guess Ryan Buell and John Zappis know each other. And Ryan Buell told Jonathan Zappis about his time there, and so Jonathan Zappis already had his mind made up when he got there, and he basically did the same thing, but then added, not only are you crazy, I'm going to blackball you from having any investigations in the state of Pennsylvania. This, my friends, set me off. Because number one, like I said, we need to be careful about everything we do. Okay? And I'm going to follow this up by the way they should have done this. Okay? You never, ever, 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 I don't care whether you believe so or not, you never fucking tell a client that they're crazy. I don't give a shit if they come to the door and meet you with jello slippers on and a fucking tinfoil hat. You never fucking call a client a name. You especially never call them crazy. Because what if something is really going on, only now it's going to get far worse because the person who called you in the first place is now terrified to contact anyone else. So you have colored the opinion of a person who is now going on the air. See what I'm getting at? You can't do that kind of thing. All right. So I tore into Ryan Buell and Jonathan Zaffis and called them out on their bullshit in my first fucking episode of Howling After Dark. And I would do it again in a heartbeat because I don't give a shit who you are, how famous you are, or how much money you've got. You want to come after me? Please, motherfucker, bring it. Because I was Special Forces in the Army. I will kill a bitch. And I'll sleep well tonight. So anyways, the way they should have handled that, if the client is, in fact, insane, crazy, out of their head, however you want to put it, there is actually a correct way to deal with that situation. You very politely explain that I believe, after investigating, that you may be incorrect in what your assumptions are about the spirits involved. I believe they do not mean you any harm. However, if you still differ on that opinion, feel free to contact your local priest. Or you can contact another team for a second opinion. Thank you for the opportunity to investigate. Have a nice night. That's how you deal with it. You never call them crazy. Ever. And you never want to aggressively disagree with a client either. Or even with somebody involved with a haunted location you happen to be going to. Because I've seen that go very wrong too. They're just things you don't do. And that's fucking high up. Because you gotta remember, you are a guest there. By the way, before I forget, I want to say a couple things here, give a little couple of shout outs. Um, if you liked tonight's theme song, I want to say thanks and kind of pitch, I guess, this band. They're called Trinity, and the song's called Into the Red. They do. They posted this as royalty-free music so that I was able to use it tonight. Because I'm actually using my tablet. Normally I use my phone, which has a different theme song on it, which is also royalty-free, by the way. Um, but Trinity, check them out. Um, song's called Into the Red. So awesome stuff. And also, I'm going to give a shout out to our friends at the Cross-Eyed Moose Event Center in Homeworth, Ohio. I have been investigating for 30 years. I've been to every place you can think of. Preston Castle twice, Mansfield Reformatory, Eastern State Penitentiary. I've been to Winchester Mystery House, Bobby Mackey's Music World. I've been to so many well-known and not so well-known places. Star of India in San Diego, I used to investigate a lot there. And the Whaley House. Okay, so trust me when I say this. The Cross-Eyed Moose is, in my opinion, the most actively haunted place I've ever been. Because every single time we go there, we come home with evidence to show for it. Every single time. And the quality of the evidence that we're getting is insane. Full bodied apparition that is so freaking solid, it looks like a person standing there. And there was no person standing there. Not a living person, anyways. So, I'm hoping that sometime in the near future we're going to be holding an event there so that people can come and investigate. It's in Homeworth, Ohio. Uh, it's a beautiful venue. They do a lot of wedding receptions and stuff too. So check them out. Cross-Eyed Moose Event Center in Homeworth, Ohio. But part of the reason why we have such a good relationship with them is because we know how to act. You know, when we met Jen, who runs the place, um, sweetest lady ever, by the way. Um, she told us her claims, and we listened, and then we went in. Well, I went into what I was seeing, and then as I'm going into the stuff that I'm seeing, we start hearing things like loud bangs and knocks and all that stuff. And this is before the investigation. Lights were still on. So that factors into it too. You got to be really careful about how you deal with situations, and you got to be really careful about how you treat people because it's the right thing to do, and spirits have a tendency to react immediately if you're not being a dick. And we have a good relationship there. Not only the people, but the spirits involved too. They love us there. You can't be, I mean, I don't believe in provoking at all, and I've never made that a secret, but my theory on that is if it's not something you would be willing to say to somebody in their own home, don't fucking say it because that's what you're doing. And besides, it's pointless. You catch more flies with honey, baby. Let's see here. Sorry, I got distracted by a message. So, giving another example of how to deal with situations. Let's say that you're doing an investigation and a client starts acting aggressively towards you. Or starts acting inappropriately. The correct way to deal with that situation is to very politely bow out and leave immediately. I know that sounds simple, but it's actually true. And it would surprise you how many people don't do that. Like, I don't care how hot the client is, if they start acting crazy and taking off their clothes, say goodbye. Or if they start acting aggressively towards you, don't yell at them and scream at them and all that stuff. Bow out, say goodbye. Remove yourself from that situation, because if you don't and you do anything else and it gets out, your reputation's done. Because people are going to think that you were the aggressor, because they already want to think everything negative about paranormal investigators anyways. Because the closed-minded set, which unfortunately is huge, far bigger than we are, that's their standpoint from the get-go. They don't want to believe you. And they'll use it as an excuse, another excuse, to say, see, this is why you shouldn't trust these guys. They're all charlatans. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Walkity, walkity, walkity. Fuck that. I don't believe in that standpoint. I don't give a shit about that standpoint, other than to say I am never going to be the victim of that standpoint. And the reason I'm never going to be the victim of that is because I'm not going to put myself in that position. So be careful about everything you do, everything you say. Act like you're, at court and you're on trial in that way. You know, you wouldn't be on, the witness stand or in front of a judge in your own trial saying whatever stupid bullshit comes to your mind because it happens to come to your mind at the time. No, you would act like the good boy or girl and hope to God the judge takes mercy on you. Well, there you go. Act like that. Act like you're in front of the judge, because you are. Every time we go out and investigate and interact with people, we have to behave. I mean, it sounds so simple, but I keep coming across these stories of people that, of teams even, that aren't acting that way, that aren't doing the right things, and what it's doing is it's making it harder for the rest of us that are doing things the right way. And I like to think that there's a lot more of us doing things the right way than there are the other kind, but there you go. All right, folks, that's about all the time I have tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, my pack, my tribe. Peace.